Have you ever ignored a small, quiet voice inside that told you to stop, to reconsider? Sometimes life gives us subtle hints, gentle nudges that something isn't right. But when we brush them aside, things can spiral out of control. This isn't just chance. It's often a sign that we're drifting away from the path we're meant to be on. God, in His infinite love, doesn't let us wander aimlessly without guidance. He gives warnings, signs that we need to pay attention to, guiding us back to the right path. Ignoring these signs can lead us further away from the peace and purpose we're meant to have. In this video, we'll uncover the 7 signs that you might be missing, signs that God is trying to steer you away from danger. Pay close attention, as these signs could be the very thing that helps you avoid a path of regret and brings you closer to the life you were meant to live. When God wants to get your attention, He often uses repetition. You might hear the same message in a sermon, then stumble upon it in a podcast, and later see it again in a news article or a conversation with a friend. This isn't just a coincidence. When a message keeps coming up, it's a clear sign that God is speaking to you. He's trying to get your attention, urging you to pay closer attention to something important in your life. These repeated messages might not always be loud or obvious. They can come in small, consistent ways, a verse you keep hearing, a topic that keeps coming up in different places, or a thought that keeps returning to your mind. This repetition is God's way of making sure you don't miss what He's trying to tell you. It's like a gentle reminder, tapping you on the shoulder saying, "Listen, this is important." But there's a risk in ignoring these repeated messages. If you brush them off or don't take them seriously, you might miss out on something crucial that God is trying to show you. The more you ignore these signs, the quieter they may become. God is patient and loving, but He also respects our choices. If we continue to ignore His guidance, there may come a time when the messages stop coming and we're left to navigate without His clear direction. It's important to stay aware and open to these repeated signs. They're there to guide you, to help you avoid mistakes, and to lead you toward the path God wants you to take. When you notice a message that keeps repeating, take a moment to reflect on what it might mean for you. Don't dismiss it as just a coincidence. Think about what God might be trying to say and how it applies to your life. These messages can come from anywhere: a book, a conversation, a random comment, or even something you see online. When they start to repeat, it's a signal to pay closer attention. God is reaching out, trying to guide you, and it's up to you to listen and respond. So, when you notice a message that keeps appearing in your life, don't ignore it. Take it as a sign that God is speaking to you. He wants the best for you and is giving you the guidance you need to stay on the right path. Pay attention, listen carefully, and act on what you hear. One of the ways God communicates with us is through strong inner convictions. These are the deep, unmistakable feelings that guide our decisions and actions. When you feel strongly about something, especially when it's rooted in biblical truths and principles, it's often God's way of steering you in the right direction. These inner convictions are more than just passing emotions. They're grounded in the teachings and values found in the Bible. For example, you might feel a strong sense of discomfort when faced with the temptation of sexual immorality, or when you're about to make a decision that goes against God's teachings. This isn't just a random feeling, it's God warning you, telling you to stop and reconsider your choices. Sometimes these convictions might seem inconvenient or even uncomfortable. You might want to ignore them, convincing yourself that it's just a fleeting thought or a temporary feeling. But it's important not to dismiss them. Inner convictions are one of the clearest ways God can guide you, helping you avoid wrong paths and harmful decisions. Ignoring these feelings can lead to regret and pain. When you push aside these inner warnings, you may find yourself on a path that leads away from God's plan for your life. It might feel easier in the moment to follow what you want rather than what you know is right, but the consequences of ignoring these convictions can be serious. These convictions are often a sign of God's love and care for you. He doesn't want you to fall into harmful patterns or make decisions that will hurt you. So when you feel that strong inner pull, especially in situations involving moral or ethical decisions, take it seriously. It's likely God's way of protecting you from harm and guiding you toward a better path. Sometimes, these convictions can come out of nowhere, surprising you with their intensity. You might be about to do something that feels wrong deep down, and that feeling won't go away. That's a strong sign that God is speaking to you, urging you to turn away from the wrong path and stay true to what you know is right. It's easy to mistake these convictions for mere emotions or personal thoughts, but they often carry a weight that goes beyond your own feelings. They're persistent, clear, and aligned with what God wants for your life. Ignoring them can lead to spiritual and emotional turmoil, while listening to them can bring peace and direction. So, when you feel that strong inner conviction, don't brush it off. Pay attention to what it's telling you and align your actions with God's will. These convictions are there for a reason, guiding you toward a life that honors God and keeps you on the right path. They are a powerful tool that God uses to communicate His will, so listen to them and let them guide you in your decisions.
God often sends people into our lives to deliver important warnings. These could be friends, colleagues, or even family members who share advice, concern, or insights that speak directly to something you're facing. Sometimes what they say may hit close to home, bringing up something you've been ignoring or avoiding. This isn't just chance. God is using these people to get your attention. It's easy to brush off what others say, especially when it challenges something we don't want to confront. But when different people start pointing out the same issue, it's important to recognize that there's a pattern. Maybe a friend mentions they're worried about a decision you're making, or a family member expresses concern over the direction your life is taking. When this happens more than once, it's a sign that God is speaking through them, offering guidance or a warning that you shouldn't ignore. The people God sends to you might not always say things you want to hear. They might challenge your choices, question your actions, or suggest changes that seem difficult or uncomfortable. But remember, their words are often rooted in love and concern. They may see things you can't or don't want to see. Their warnings are meant to help you avoid mistakes, not to criticize or judge. It's important not to be stubborn when these signs appear. Ignoring the advice or warnings of those around you can lead to regret later on. You might feel defensive or annoyed, thinking they don't understand your situation. But if their words are coming from a place of care and they're echoing the same message, it's wise to listen and reflect on what they're saying. God's love for you is so strong that He will use the people around you to deliver the messages you need to hear. They may not always come in the way you expect, but these warnings are there to guide you and protect you from harm. Dismissing them because they're uncomfortable or inconvenient can lead you down a path you may later wish you had avoided. So when you notice that multiple people are bringing up the same concerns or offering similar advice, take it seriously. This is likely God's way of reaching out to you, trying to prevent you from going down a wrong path. Pay attention to these signs and don't let pride or stubbornness keep you from hearing what God is saying through others. Their words might be the very thing that keeps you on track and aligned with God's plan for your life. When God speaks to you audibly, it's one of the most direct forms of warning. This means hearing God's voice clearly, as if He is speaking directly to you. While this form of communication is less common today, it's incredibly powerful and significant. One famous example is the story of Saul on the road to Damascus. As Saul was traveling, he heard God's voice calling out to him, asking why he was persecuting him. This direct, audible message was so profound that it changed Saul's life completely, leading him to become Paul, one of the most important figures in early Christianity. Although hearing God's voice audibly is rare in modern times, it's important to recognize and appreciate the gravity of such an experience if it happens to you. This form of communication is a clear and unmistakable sign that God is trying to get your attention. It's not something to be taken lightly or ignored. When you hear God's voice in such a direct way, it's essential to respond with seriousness and openness. Take the time to reflect on what you've heard and consider its meaning carefully. This kind of message usually comes with a clear purpose and direction, and it's meant to guide you in a specific way. Appreciate the rarity of this experience and treat it with the respect it deserves. Direct messages from God are meant to address crucial matters in your life,
and responding to them with thoughtful consideration is important. This is not just a minor detail or a coincidence. It's a significant moment of communication between you and God. So, if you find yourself hearing God's voice audibly, be attentive and responsive. Recognize the importance of such a direct sign and allow it to guide your decisions and actions. Heeding God's warnings is crucial, as the consequences of ignoring them can be severe. Consider the story of Herod, who plotted against Jesus. When the wise men visited Herod, he was threatened by the news of a new king and sought to destroy Jesus. Despite being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, the wise men obeyed God's warning, avoiding the wrath of a ruler determined to do harm. Herod's refusal to heed the warning led to tragic consequences. His actions not only failed to stop Jesus, but also resulted in the massacre of innocent children in an attempt to eliminate the perceived threat. This story illustrates how ignoring God's guidance can lead to dire outcomes, not only for oneself, but for others as well. On the other hand, paying attention to and following God's warnings brings about significant benefits. Obeying these divine signs often leads to blessings and favor in various areas of life. Those who heed God's guidance experience protection, peace, and a sense of direction that helps them navigate challenges more effectively. This obedience can also extend to the well-being of one's family, ensuring that loved ones are safeguarded and guided according to God's will. By following God's warnings, you align yourself with His plan, which often results in a more fulfilling and protected life. Just as the wise men were spared from Herod's plot, listening to God's guidance helps you avoid potential pitfalls and ensures that you and your loved ones stay on a path that leads to greater blessings and security. Paying attention to these signs is essential. God's warnings are meant to guide you, protect you, and help you avoid harm. To truly benefit from these divine warnings, take the time to study the Bible and live according to its instructions. By doing so, you open yourself to experiencing the rewards of obedience, blessings, favor, and protection. Embrace these signs as guidance from a loving God and let them lead you toward a path of greater fulfillment and peace.